Life After Faith, The Case for Secular Humanism, Yale University Press, 2014, Roman 12. But the softness is merely a matter of more nuance and sensitivity in his critique, which still unequivocally rejects the factual claims of theistic religions. These claims, Kitcher maintains, are demonstrably false and ought to be abandoned. Some religious values are worth preserving, but doctrines about God's existence, nature, and intervention in history are not ultimately necessary to support these values. We should not summarily dispatch religion to the rubbish heap, but we should reduce it to an ethical view that is entirely consonant with what Kitcher calls a fully secular world. His core critique deftly combines two often discussed features of religion: the diversity of religious beliefs, and naturalistic ways of explaining them. Debates about belief often center on what we might call mere theism, the claim that the world ultimately depends on a good and powerful being. But theistic religions insist on much more, including central claims that other theistic religions firmly reject. Judaism and Islam say God is strictly one, but Christianity says there are three divine persons. Christianity says that God's revelation culminates with the teachings of Jesus, who was the Messiah foretold by the Jewish prophets. Orthodox Judaism says that the Messiah has not yet come, while Islam says that the Quran, as revealed to Muhammad, is a later and final expression of divine truth. The sacred books of these religions present conflicting ideas about the ritual and moral practices God demands of us. As a result, accepting the core teachings of one religion requires denying at least some core teachings of others. Such denials would make sense for believers who could make a strong rational case for the specific core beliefs of their religion. If you have a solid case for believing that God is triune, you have a good reason to reject the view of Jews and Muslims. But few believers can make such a case. Their commitment is typically a matter of a firm conviction, faith, produced by their religious training and practice. As Kitcher notes, a firm conviction based on religious training and practice is also what believers in other religions have. If, therefore, Christians reject Muslims' beliefs, they must claim that Muslims' education and training did not provide good reasons for believing in Islam, but merely applied social and psychological techniques that produced those beliefs, regardless of whether they were true. They offer a naturalistic explanation of their beliefs. But Christians have no answer to Muslims who make the same criticism of Christian beliefs. Kitcher's conclusion is that no theistic religion can consistently support the claim that rival views are false and that its view is true. Interview with Philip Kitcher. Gary Gutting. You have said that you take religious doctrines to have become incredible. Why do you think that? Philip Kitcher. An opening clarification. I don't think focusing on religious doctrine as opposed to religious experience or practice is always the best way of considering a religious perspective. Nonetheless, most religions do offer doctrines about aspects of the world that go beyond the things of everyday experience. They tell us about gods or spirits or ancestors who return, or special forces or sacred qualities of particular places. The most basic reason for doubt about any of these ideas is that when you understand words in their normal, everyday senses, nobody is prepared to accept all of them. Even if you suppose that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam share some common conception of a divine being, the Hindu deities are surely different. The spirits and ancestors of African and Native American religions different again, and that's before we get to Melanesian mana or the Aboriginal Australian Dreamtime. It's very hard to think that every one of these radically different conceptions picks out some aspect of our cosmos. So asserting the doctrines of a particular religion or family of religions requires denying other contrary doctrines. However, when you consider the historical processes underlying the doctrines contemporary believers accept, those processes turn out to be very similar. Long ago, there was some special event, a revelation.